It was supposed to be a regular day at the airport, but what unfolded left everyone speechless. A black woman, calm and composed, stepped up for a routine TSA screening when things took a sharp, unexpected turn. The TSA officer in charge, stern and authoritative, seemed to single her out unfairly, pushing the limits of professionalism. With every passing moment, the tension grew as the officer's behavior became more aggressive, drawing the attention of bystanders. Whispers filled the air, and all eyes were on the woman, who remained remarkably poised despite the escalating humiliation. But then something incredible happened. Just as it seemed like the officer had crossed the line, the woman revealed a secret about herself that no one could have imagined. In an instant, the power dynamic shifted, leaving everyone stunned and the officer reeling. What could her secret identity be? Stay tuned to find out. As the crowd around them grew, the tension in the air was almost unbearable. The woman, standing tall and composed, handed over her ID and ticket, her calm demeanor contrasting sharply with the officer's growing hostility. Questions swirled in the minds of onlookers. Why was she being treated this way? Was it a misunderstanding or something deeper? The TSA officer continued to press, his tone sharp and condescending, insisting on additional checks that seemed unnecessary. He scrutinized her every move, clearly trying to exert control, but the woman didn't flinch. Instead, she stood firm, her silence speaking volumes. Some passengers whispered amongst themselves, wondering why she wasn't fighting back more. Others pulled out their phones, sensing that something bigger was happening. Still, no one could have predicted what she was about to reveal, a revelation so shocking it would change the entire atmosphere in an instant. But what was it? The officer, clearly enjoying his power, demanded that the woman step aside for an additional screening. Her calm demeanor seemed to frustrate him even more, and his tone grew sharper with each word. Passengers in line exchanged uneasy glances, some visibly uncomfortable with what was unfolding but unsure of whether to intervene. As the woman complied with the officer's instructions, a middle-aged man whispered to his companion, "She looks familiar. I can't place her, but I know I've seen her before." His comment only added to the growing curiosity among the bystanders. Meanwhile, the officer continued to pile on unnecessary questions, as if trying to break her composure. Yet, her expression remained steady, almost as if she was waiting for the perfect moment to speak. What could she be hiding? Why wasn't she speaking up? Every second felt heavier, and the room seemed to hold its collective breath, waiting for the truth to unravel. The officer's voice grew louder as he ordered the woman to empty her bag for inspection. She calmly complied, but the unease among the crowd was palpable. People were glued to the scene, some recording, others whispering nervously. The officer sifted through her belongings with an almost theatrical sense of authority, as though he was looking for something to justify his actions. But the woman didn't react. Her composure was unshakable. A young woman in the crowd muttered to her friend, "Why isn't she saying anything? It's like she knows something we don't." That question hung in the air, feeding the suspense that was growing by the second. Just then, a uniformed airport supervisor appeared, alerted by the murmurs and the cluster of people watching. The officer stiffened but continued his aggressive questioning. Still, the woman remained silent, and then, with a small, knowing smile, she reached into her pocket. All eyes locked on her, waiting for what was coming next. As the woman reached into her pocket, the entire room seemed to hold its breath. The TSA officer, now visibly tense, took a step back, his authoritative facade slipping just slightly. What was she about to reveal? A badge? A document? The suspense was unbearable. Slowly, she pulled out a sleek black card embossed with a golden insignia. The crowd leaned in, trying to catch a glimpse of what it was. The officer's confidence wavered, his eyes narrowing as he tried to decipher its meaning. "What's this supposed to prove?" he snapped, though his voice betrayed a hint of unease. The woman finally spoke, her voice calm but firm, cutting through the tension like a knife. "This proves that you just made a very big mistake," she said, locking eyes with him. Before anyone could react, the airport supervisor, who had been observing quietly, suddenly froze. Recognition flashed across his face, and he whispered, "Oh no, it's her." The officer's smug expression faded as the supervisor stepped forward, his voice trembling slightly. "Ma'am," he began cautiously, "I think there's been a misunderstanding." The woman raised an eyebrow, her calm exterior unshaken. "A misunderstanding," she repeated, her tone sharp enough to cut through the growing tension. She held up the black card for everyone to see. "This," she said, her voice steady, "is my federal ID. I'm a senior investigator for the Department of Homeland Security." Gasps rippled through the crowd, and the officer's face turned pale. The realization of his mistake hit him like a freight train. But the twist wasn't over. The woman continued, her voice now commanding. "And as of this moment, I'm officially opening an investigation into your conduct. Every passenger here is a witness." Phones were raised higher, capturing the officer's stunned expression. The room was silent except for the sound of people recording the moment. The officer stammered, trying to defend himself, but it was too late. The supervisor intervened, apologizing profusely, but the woman wasn't finished. "This isn't just about me," she said, addressing the crowd. "No one should have to endure humiliation like this." Her words carried weight, leaving the officer standing frozen in the middle of the now empowered audience. The officer stood in silence, the weight of his actions sinking in as the crowd murmured around him. The woman calmly placed her ID back in her pocket and turned to the supervisor. "Ensure this doesn't happen again, to anyone," she said firmly, her voice resonating with authority. The supervisor nodded quickly, promising to address the situation immediately. As she collected her belongings, the tension in the air began to dissipate. A few passengers approached her to thank her for standing up, their words filled with admiration. One woman whispered, "You didn't just stand up for yourself, you stood up for all of us." The investigator offered a small smile before heading toward her gate, leaving the crowd inspired and the officer humbled. The phones lowered, but the impact of what had just unfolded lingered. It was more than just a lesson in power. It was a reminder that dignity and respect should never be compromised.